Hi there and welcome. It's Jennifer McGuire. Now, I think one of the things I enjoy most about stamping is that I can use stamps in creative ways. I can use them in ways they weren't originally intended, and that way I can get a new look and a new use from a stamp set. It's a great way to get a more bang for your buck. So I'm going to take a few different stamp sets and alter them and combine them in a way that I get results that are completely different than what was originally intended. I'll have two cards to show you along the way. So the first set I really wanted to use was the Harvest Mouse stamp set from My Favorite Things. I love this set. There are so many adorable images in it. I decided I wanted to use this guy, and instead of carrying that basket on his head, I wanted him to carry some birthday things. So I dug around and I found the My Favorite Things birthday bear set has a little present and a little cake, and I thought that would be perfect. I could even use the balloon and the party hat if I wanted to. So I'm going to first start with the mouse, and I am just going to partially ink him up. This is a great way to get more out of your stamps. Just do partial inking. You can create a mask if that's helpful, but I find that since this is a clear stamp, I can look through the stamp and see what is getting inked when I'm putting it up against my ink pad. Now you'll notice I don't completely stamp the top of his head. That's okay. We can come in and fix that with a black pen in a moment. So I'm going to make two cards at once, and I'm stamping both of these with My Favorite Things black hybrid ink on Neenah cardstock because they're both Copic friendly, but you could color these however you want. So now I have the birthday present that I'm going to stamp onto one of the mice, and then I am going to stamp the birthday cake on the other. So think about it. You could stamp a tiny little Christmas tree on him. You could have him carrying balloons. There's lots of things that you could use here. So I encourage you to look through your stamps, find different things that you can change up and combine to get completely different images. So this went from like a fall themed image to a birthday image. Now, sometimes when you're combining or altering stamped images, you have to connect the dots a little bit, kind of draw in some things. Here I need to finish drawing in his little paws, but really it doesn't have to be perfect. When we color this in, nobody will notice. And by the way, black Copic multiliners are perfect for this because they have super fine tips, so you can go and do these tiny little areas. I chose to use Copic markers to color these little guys in, but you could use any color medium that you want to here. Just make sure whatever ink you use and whatever paper you use is friendly for that coloring medium. Now, I am just going to quickly show you the coloring here because I don't do any kind of rocket science with Copic markers. I just do what works for me and what I enjoy. To save time, I'm applying my darkest color first in the areas where I would expect the shading to be the darkest. So I did C5 in the darkest areas, I blended that out with C3, and then blended that out entirely with C1, which is the lightest. I wanted these cuties to have little rosy cheeks and a little pink in their ears, and so I'm going with the R20 and going right over the gray to give that little peach color. By going right over the color, it kind of pushes that color aside and automatically blends and makes it super easy to do. I decided my mice needed pants, so I'm giving them some blue jeans. My favorite combination for primary blue colors is the B24 and B28. I think they blend beautifully together. So I started with the B24, added a little bit of shading around the edge with B28, and now I'm coming back with the B24 to blend it together. Now don't spend too much time blending together. When you have it all said and done, it really isn't necessary. Okay, so now for the present, I'm doing R24, my favorite color of all time, I think, probably the one I use the most, and adding a little bit of shading with R27. Now for his sweater, I wanted to go with green, and my favorite combination of greens that I've used for years and I still go back to is YG25, which is lightest, YG17, and YG67, which is the darkest. I think these are great green colors for coloring like foliage or leaves or whatever, and also just a great kind of primary green color. So you're seeing some of my favorites on these mice. I seem to always go back to the same color combinations. I really don't think it's necessary to have a ton of Copic colors. You can do a lot with just a few. Now for teals, I really like BG15 with a little bit of shading from BG49. I also should mention that I'm coloring outside of the lines because I intend to cut him out. I could have saved a lot of time on this card if I would have stamped this right onto my card pieces and not worried about cutting it out, but I love to fussy cut. Okay, I also did the same teal combination for the sweater on the other guy here. Images like this are great ones for practicing and trying out different color combinations. For the cake itself, I did 2 light yellows together, YR20 and YR21. And for the icing, I did RV10 and RV13. Very minimal shading here. I think with small areas like this, you really don't need to do much. And then watch how fast I color in the little candles. So I just put some teal down, BG15, and then I did a 1 line of BG49 for a little bit of shading at the bottom. And then I'm going to swipe that across with a bright orange YR09. And that's all I'm going to do for the candles. So now this is where I fussy cut. Again, you could really save a lot of time by just having done this stamping directly onto your card. Whenever I cut up right against the edge of an image, I like to come in with a black pen. I really like the black Tombow brush tip pen for this. And I go right around the edges. This makes a huge difference to not see that white edge. This is a trick I got from Kathy Rakusin over at the Daily Marker, who's a coloring pro. This makes a huge difference. It doesn't take time. You just hold up your piece and rub the brush tip right along the edge. And it gives it a nice defined edge. It makes a huge, huge difference. I also like to come in with the black glaze pen. This is a gel pen that adds a tiny bit of dimension and really make the eyes a little darker and kind of have that little bit of dimension. Really makes critters pop. The kind of draws your eye right to their eye. And then for the present and the cake, I decided to give that a little bit of shine with some clear Wink of Stella. I actually went in and did 2 coats of Wink of Stella. That's another way you can add more sparkle to your project, is put 1 coat down, let it dry, and put another coat down, and it really catches the eye in real life. Now it's time to do the die cut shapes that you see in the background. I'm using 2 die sets from My Favorite Things. They both have double stitching on the inside of the cutting edge, just for a fun finishing touch. There are a lot of faux stitching shaped sets like this out there, so you can use any of them or even just plain die cut shapes. I really like the faux stitch edge because it just adds a little bit of interest to an otherwise simple card. So I'm running this through my die cut machine, and here you can see the faux double stitched edge on the inside. I think it's just so pretty. There is also a square set of dies with this double stitching. Now it's time to pull these pieces together on my cards. Now normally I use note cards or folded cardstock for my card bases, but today I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I'm using some specialty paper. This is glitter paper from My Favorite Things, and it's thick, so you can make a card out of it. So I cut this to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I'm going to score it right down the middle so that I can have a top folding note card. And this is a beautiful card base. It has a white core inside, so you can write on it, and this glitter doesn't rub off. This is one of those papers that the glitter stays put. It's beautiful. For the other card, I'm using another specialty paper or specialty cardstock from My Favorite Things, and this is a silver foil. It's like a brushed silver, so it's like a mirror but not as shiny, and is perfect for a card base. It's nice and thick and has the white inside. It's also available in gold, by the way. I just wanted to show that to you. So this is a fun way to add a little pizzazz to a pretty simple card. Okay, now I wanted this circle to be up against the edge of a card, so I'm just cutting a little bit off that circle, and I'm going to glue that in place. And I also wanted to add a little strip of pattern paper. I grabbed this 6x6 pad that has multiple shades of the same color in here with this chevron pattern. Just beautiful colors. You can see them all on the front there. This is from My Favorite Things. I really like the feel of this paper. I think it's great for stamping. But here I've just cut a small little piece and I'm going to glue it along the bottom. I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those paper pads that I have to hoard and only use small pieces at a time. Now you could do some fun stamping and use something along that bottom instead of a pattern paper, but pattern paper is a great way to save a little bit of time. And after spending the time to color and cut out that little mouse, I want to kind of finish him up with a simple look. So now I have all my pieces glued on here. Usually I don't glue things on until all the stamping is done, but I wanted to make sure I had enough room for my stamping. Okay, so I wanted to add a little strip of a darker gray glitter paper, and I didn't have any. So I'm taking a strip of that same glitter paper, and I'm using my Copic to change the color. It ended up being a little bit dark, so I'm just rubbing it onto my scrap paper here to lighten it up a little bit, and then that will dry permanent on there since Copics are permanent. So now I have a different color glitter paper. So you can color that glitter paper with whatever color of permanent marker you want, like Copics or Sharpies. So I'm just going to put adhesive on the back of this thin strip here and put him along that pattern paper strip on the card. Now to finish up this card, I just need a sentiment. So I grabbed this stamp set from My Favorite Things. It has lots of birthday sentiments. It's called Delicious Birthday. I thought the sentiment, Bring on the Cake, was perfect to go with the mouse carrying the cake. Now it's a long sentiment, so I decided to cut it up into 3 pieces so that I could stack the words on top of each other in this little area in front of the mouse. When stamping stacked sentiments like this, I start with the middle first. I have 3 images to do here. On the is in the middle, so I stamp that first. And now I'm going to stamp Bring above that and Cake below that. I think it's easiest to do this way because then you can get the spacing just right. Just look down through the acrylic block to make sure you're lining it up right each time. Now it's time to glue the mouse onto the white circle, and I wanted to show you that sometimes I glue things down but then decide to change them up. That's why I use an adhesive that rubs off nicely, like the Tombow Stamp Runner. Here I've put the mouse down. I decided I wanted the circle to sit up higher so that the candles were more inside of the circle. Since I use the Tombow Stamp Runner, I can carefully peel up my pieces and shift them and then put them back in place, and it will adhere nicely in the end. So if you're very careful and very slow moving, you can shift things around. I don't want you to think that I always position things right the first time. I mess up a heck of a lot. So being able to have an adhesive like that allows you to move things around is really important to me. So there, I feel much better about where he's positioned now. And there was one last thing I wanted to do to this guy just to add a little fun to him. I have these little silver sequins that I've had for years from Martha Stewart. I just think they're adorable. They're super tiny. These seem kind of silly to take the time to adhere each of these individually, but it doesn't take long. I just put a tiny dot of multi-medium from Ranger. Then I use my little quick sticks tool to pick up one of the little stars at a time and drop it right into the adhesive. It doesn't take long at all. You could use bigger sequins or even stamp tiny little stars if you wanted to. So for the other card, I use the My Favorite Things Totally Happy stamp set. I like this Sending Happy Your Way. I felt like it went with this little mouse. It again is a long sentiment, so I cut it into 3 parts, just cutting the words apart, and I'm going to stack those on top of each other once again. And by the way, I could have mounted all of those words on top of each other on an acrylic block and stamped all 3 at once. That would save time, but I don't find that I always get great spacing between the words. That's why I like to do one at a time. So now I'm gluing this onto a silver note card. I've trimmed this note card down to be a little bit smaller. It's about 4.5 by 3.5. And then I'm going to glue that white die cut on and cut the rest off the edge. Now I'm going to keep this card pretty simple and just add a few of those silver stars, and that's all we're going to do for him. So I hope this video inspires you to look at your stamp sets and see what you can change and combine to get something completely new and different. It's a great way to stretch your supplies. If you're interested in these products, I link them below in my YouTube description, or you can find more details at my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com. I also have a giveaway over there. Thanks for spending some time here, and I hope you'll return again soon. Have a great day.